Good morning, everybody. We'll let people jump in as they sign in, but we are so excited. I see so many great friends and supporters in this group. So good morning to everybody. I hope 2024 has been kind to you so far. We're here this morning to discuss what 2023 looked like for us here at Community Food Share. A lot of things have been changing. There are a lot of challenges, but there have been so many successes. And as supporters and investors in the work that we do, we think it's really important that we share this with you. Kim, our CEO, is going to be leading the discussion, and we want to leave a lot of time for questions and answers. Just have a dialogue at the end of this. So please jot your questions down as Kim is talking. We have some great staff members here, and instead of having everyone introduce themselves, I think we'll just have everybody do a wave if you're a staff member. So you can see some of the people that are executing the great work that is done here at Community Food Share. So I think we'll go ahead and let Kim get started. We're excited to have her here this morning to be able to share the results of last year's efforts, and also to kind of give you some forecasting in what the new year looks like for us and our community. So welcome to everyone. Again, so happy you're here. We thank you. You know that we couldn't do what we do without you. We say that and it sounds cliche, but it's the absolute truth. We are working in collaboration together on ending and fighting hunger in our communities. So thanks for being a vital part of the work that we do. So I am going to send this over to Kim De Silva, our CEO, and we will start talking about our 2023 annual report. Kim.
Great. Thank you so much, Dina. Really appreciate it. And I appreciate the time everyone is giving us this morning to go over annual report. If you have questions too, you can also, I want it to be as interactive as possible. So do feel free to just either raise your hand and we can address a question as it comes, or feel free to put a question in the chat box and we will be monitoring those as well. So once again, I echo everything that Dina has said. Thank you for your support of our organization. It's great to see a lot of familiar names and faces here. So we do appreciate the support of Community Food Share and your investment into our organization. So we'll go ahead and get started with our annual report. So 2023 annual report. So just it takes us a while to wrap up all of our numbers and impact. And so just to kind of set the date range for this, we work on a fiscal year, which means the end of our year is actually June 30th of each year. So this is from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. But I do also have some numbers for the first 6 months of this fiscal year after we get through the annual report. So we will start with the first page. Excellent. So really here, what we wanted to highlight to everyone is that in fiscal 23, Community Food Share was able to distribute 11.7 million pounds of food through our partners and direct service programs. And that is the equivalent of about 9.8 million meals. And we do that in a variety of ways, which also includes rescuing food. So we were able to rescue about 12 tons of food each day that would otherwise go to the landfill. So that really equates to over 27,000 meals each day for those individuals throughout our communities who are in need of food support. And the food in which we distributed, it is valued at about $22.7 million. So when we distribute and collect food here at a Community Food Share, we are very aware of the monetary dollars it would take if we had to purchase all of that food ourselves. So about 80% of the food in which we give out is donated, and that is at a large sum of money. So, and since 1981, we've been around for 42 years now, I believe. We've distributed 206 million meals. But one thing I wanted to point out in our message to the community is that, you know, we all know that Boulder and Broomfield counties, the counties we serve, are extremely high cost of living areas. You know, Colorado is high, but Boulder, especially, and Broomfield are especially high for a cost of living. So a family of four would need an annual income of at least $100,000 to make ends meet here without public or private support. So when we talk about the community who's in need of food support, we are really talking about individuals in our community who do work, they just do not make enough money to support all of their bills at the end of the month. So that is a really, you know, telling stat to me that is always about people say, how do you qualify people for food? And really the individuals that access our food are individuals who just do not make enough money to support themselves within our communities. So when it comes to meal distribution, we work with 42 partner agencies as well as our direct service programs. So many people are familiar with our Feeding Families Pantry or our mobile pantries that we have, or our Elder Share program that we serve seniors with. But the majority of our food goes out to our 42 partner agencies. So 68% of our total distribution went to our partner agencies. And that was 6.7 million meals valued at $15.4 million. So when you do support Community Food Share, you are supporting the entire community as we work with 42 partner agencies to help distribute this food out into our communities. Our direct service programs were 28% of our overall service to the community, and that was about 3.4 million pounds. And offsite distributions, which are mobile pantries or some pop-up pantries, or some partnerships that we have with other organizations, that equated to about 3.6% of our distribution. And what we love to highlight is of that 11.7 million pounds of food, over 70% of the food that we distributed was either fresh produce, protein, or dairy products. So it is very important that the food we're getting out into the community is nutritious food that will help families thrive. And when I talk about our direct service programs, I'm really talking about the programs that we run ourselves that do direct service to individuals. So we have Feeding Families, which is our on-site food pantry. That is open Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for individuals to access food directly from our facility. We distributed about 2.5 million pounds out of our on-site pantry, and we served 7,792 individuals with over 29,000 visits to our Feeding Family Pantry. Yes, Michael. You're muted.
Michael, we can't hear you.
I got it.
There you are. There you are.
I got it. Okay. So how do you differentiate between households and individuals?
So what we do is we actually have a count of how many people, when people come into our Feeding Families, they register so that we have a database of everyone who is utilizing the service. But what we can tell is, okay, if you think of individuals, it's really unduplicated. So that second number of visits is duplicated. So those 7,792,000 people did visit over 29,000 times. So that's really just showing that this is a support network for a lot of families. When food banks were first introduced into the United States, they were more about emergency food. So people would use them once, maybe twice, maybe 4 times a year. But now what we've realized is that food banks are really part of an individual's food plan for each month. So that's kind of showing those statistics. Our next is our mobile pantry program. So our mobile pantry program is really meant to go to areas where the partner agencies themselves are not able to handle the influx of need within their own community, or sometimes in areas in which no food pantries actually exist. So through our mobile pantries, we did 640,000 pounds of food, and we served 2,745 individuals. And once again, that's unduplicated individuals. And that equated to nearly 4,600 visits through our mobile pantries that are out in the community. And then finally, we have our Elder Share program, which is our distribution to the senior population. We had over 238,000 pounds serving 591 individuals, and that was over 6,800 visits. And the thing about our Elder Share program, which is serving our senior population, is when I started at this job in 2019, we were serving about less than 200 individuals. So what we are seeing across the community is that there is a rise in senior hunger, especially as a lot of boomers leave the workforce and start to retire. So we see that as a main point of focus for us as we move into the future of how are we going to address senior hunger within our communities, and especially some of the dietary restrictions that come with that. Volunteers. This next page is on volunteers, which we all know we could not do what we do without our volunteer force. Our volunteer force equate to 12 full-time employees here at Community Food Share. So if we had to add on 12 additional staff here at our organization, it would be devastating to our work and what we do, because our main focus is getting funds in to support the community. So we had 2,300 unique volunteers, so unduplicated individuals who came through our door, who contributed 24,226 hours. And so what that tells you as well is that we have a large population of volunteers who come quite often and quite regularly, which is just amazing for the organization and our staff to have a group of volunteers who know what they're doing, who can train other volunteers, who have really invested in giving of their time. It is just essential to our organization. And the value of this volunteer time is estimated at over $832,000. So yes, Michael.
Sorry.
No, please.
Okay. So how do you see your volunteers as having an actual background appropriate to some expertise that is available to you? Does my question clear on that?
Absolutely. So we do have a volunteer department, and what they do is when volunteers come in, they do fill out an application form. And within that application form, it really talks about special special interests or special talents. So somebody can sign up and say, you know what, I don't want to work in the warehouse. I'm not able to do that, but I'm really talented in data entry, let's just say that. So then that'll go to the departments that handle data entry. And we'll say, hey, we have somebody who might be able to help in this factor. So we go through an application process. This next one is our statement of financial activity. So really, when we take a look at our breakdown of support and revenue versus our expenses, you'll see that the largest line item is actually a gift in kind, which is that food that I was talking about. So we do count the value of the food as part of our assets, and we do insure it, and we do make sure that it's handled appropriately. And because of the fact that to do the work we do, we would have to purchase that food if it was not donated. So we like to highlight that because that is one of the, obviously it's our mission and the largest singular line within our financials. But you'll see we have income that comes in through contributions. So individuals just like you who give to this organization to make sure that we have the cash we need to actually meet our mission. We do grants, so foundations, corporate grants, asking for gifts for the organization. We have some events throughout the year. We have a farm to fork event. We have a golf event. We do a turkey trot, which is every year on Thanksgiving. And then we do have investments. So we do hopefully sometime get income on those investments. But as you know, some years that will show a negative. So we were fortunate enough to get a little bit of a positive. And then when we look at our expenses, where that funding goes out, program services, which means the programs that create the distribution and procurement of that food, that is the majority of our expenses go under our food distribution programs. We do have a fundraising team and marketing team, many of who are on here, and those funds are used to engage the public in helping us raise the funds in which we need to run the organization. And our administrative office as well, our front office activities such as HR, my position, IT, and accounting. So, and just to give you a little kind of insight, so our cash expenses last year, I have to put on my glasses to read this number correctly, but $6.5 million. And before the pandemic, so our last fiscal year before the pandemic, our cash expenses were 3.1. So our expenses have doubled essentially from 2019 until now. And that has a lot to do with purchasing food that had not been previously that had been donated, and just the increase in need that we've seen throughout our community with individuals and agencies accessing food. And our budget for this year, our cash expense is scheduled to be 6.8 million. We also have our board of directors here. So we do, we are governed by a board of directors. Our board of directors help us really focus our organization strategically. They do financial oversight. They work with us on any investments we do. So we have a great broad range of board members on our who really help us lead this organization. And so right now we are a full slate. We have all of our positions are full, but if anyone is ever interested in board positions or learning more, please reach out, because we do, as board members, terms end, we are always looking for other individuals to help join the organization.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you're saying food donations, where are the donations coming from specifically?
Yeah, so they come from a variety of areas. So we have local food donations from local farms, local retailers. We have a retail food pickup. So we have trucks on the road that go to King Soopers, Trader Joe's, Costco's, to pick up food that they are no longer want on their shelves. So the sell by date, it's a lot of high perishable items. But we also are part of Feeding America, which is a national food bank network. And so through that, we have national organizations that donate to there's 200 of us across the nation. And we have what's called, not to get too much into the weeds, but we have a system called a choice system, where our food procurement people can go online and see what foods are available throughout the United States and access that food for our own communities. And then we work with Colorado as a state. So there's also statewide procurement that we do for farms and producers that may not be in our service area, but are still in the state of Colorado. So we always have kind of this three-pronged approach, which is really localized, statewide, and then looking federally for where our food can come from.
I have a question.
Yes.
Under expenses, there's not non-cash expenses of 22 million. You sort of outline what that.
So that is the food as well. So what it is,
Okay.
it's kind of an in and out. So you have the food coming in, and then as an expense, the distribution of it out.
Okay.
So it doesn't match up completely because it's based on inventory at hand at the end of the year. So we brought in 22 in that fiscal year, but expense wise, we had some inventory left over from the previous year. So that was included in the distribution of the funds, what it takes to do the food this year.
Thank you.
And then finally, we've had, some great accomplishments, for this organization. One of our notable accomplishments, which many of you have heard about, has been the strategic refresh that our organization went through last fiscal year, which was a really great accomplishment because it encompassed input from so many different areas of our community. So we started with our staff, our board of directors. We talked to participants, volunteers. We sent out surveys to corporations, food donors, monetary donors to try to get us aligned in terms of really, as an organization, where are we focused in these next 3 years? And feeding is our number one goal. So our number one mission here is to make sure that we get food out to individuals in need of food assistance, whether that's through our own direct service programs or through our 42 partner agencies. But also, it takes a lot more than that to get that done. So what leads into that, if you will, rooftop of feeding is our main mission. It's community, making sure that we're working together to enhance our ability to receive, store, and distribute food through collaboration. And so really what that means is nobody should work in a silo, that we're having conversations with the community members, with the city councils, with our partner agencies, with the cities about, what is our need looking like and what types of food and what quantities of food do we need? And how can we partner together to make sure that we're having the most impact we can on our community? Sustainability is really important to us. We kind of laugh, but food banking is really the first green industry. We started way back when because we were rescuing food from landfills before it was really on anyone's radar. But we are committed to promoting sustainable operations and upholding the highest standards of food safety and quality. And really, this is to make sure that people know when they access food through our organization that we have made sure it is the safest possible food that they can have. Now, things, as I say, we take a lot of perishable foods, and perishable foods obviously last a very short amount of time. So really, part of that is also leading into our next pillar, which is education. And really making sure that together we raise awareness about food insecurity, but also food quality. So talking to our participants about if you take something and you waited a couple days to open it up and it smells funny, or it looks weird, we do not want you eating that. So really use your best judgment. But then we also do have, if you will, a book of more accurate Best By or Eat By dates. So the ones that are actually on cans and drinks that we see, a lot of those they're not consistent throughout industries, nor are they sometimes an end by date. An example would be dairy can go a week to two further than what the sell by or use by date is. We've all heard, but you have canned food that can go for years. It may lose a little bit of its nutrition quality, but it'll still be good to eat. So really looking at education to the public about who we are, what we do, as well as to those we serve, about the best way to help them in their food needs. And so I do have some. Dina put something in the chat, but there was an ask about some of our organizations. So it is on our website, but we do hit all different areas within our service area. So Allen's Park Community Cupboard up in Allen's Park, we work with Boulder County AIDS Project. We work with Boulder Shelter for the Homeless, Bridge House, Broomfield Fish, Our Center, EFA, Sister Carmen. We work with Friends of Longmont Youth Center. We work with Harvest of Hope, the In-Between of Longmont. We work with Together. We work with Teens Inc., Safe Shelter of St. Vrain Valley. So we have a lot of really great organizations that do a lot of different things throughout our community. So we do have a full listing of all 42. We also work with Nederland area seniors and Nederland Food Pantry. So a lot of great people. And our newest partner is in Johnstown, which is really great for us because that is also a very rural, small community. And just because there's not a lot of individuals and families who live there, that does not mean that there are not people there who are in need of food support. So having a pantry we work with there is really essential to making sure we're hitting all those rural areas as well as our cities and bigger towns.
Is that the last of our slides, Trevor?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Nice to
The man behind the community food share slide is Trevor.
Hello.
Great time to ask Kim or any of the staff additional questions. I think one of the things that we find ourselves challenged with is really having people understand the scope of what we do and the majority of that going through our partner agencies. So if you have additional questions, please ask. But I think what's really important to you as donors is the fact that you can say you're supporting community food share, but in fact, you're supporting all of those organizations that Kim listed and the rest that are on the website. So you should feel very good about your impact in the community and hopefully seeing the scope and volume of what was done in fiscal year 2023 brings to the forefront the continued growing need for food assistance in our communities.
Yeah,
So you guys, some questions. Sorry, Kim.
No, I was just going to say, speaking on that growing need, the 11.7 million pounds of food that we distributed last year was 22% over where we ended the previous year. So when I say that we're seeing increased need for food assistance, it is really something that we're seeing year over year. And so far through the first 6 months of our fiscal year, I'm trying to open up that, but we are seeing I think currently we are about, last year at this time, we had, through December, we distributed 5.8 million pounds of food. And this year, we distributed 6.4 million pounds of food. So we are seeing it just increasing again this year.
Aside from the need for more food, Kim, what other challenges do you foresee for fiscal year 24?
Well, fiscal year 24, one of the big challenges that we have is keeping up community support to distribute all of that food. So during the pandemic, we had a lot of support, not only from individuals and corporations and foundations, but from the state and federal governments. So there was a lot of, we had, individuals had pandemic era benefits, which meant SNAP dollars were much higher for individuals who were food insecure. You had Medicaid benefits that were consistent without having to re-enroll. We also had lots of food coming through the state. So we know that industries shut down, such as the food industries of retail restaurants. And so a lot of that food was diverted to food banks from farms. So it's a farm to food bank program that the government enabled during the pandemic. So we had all of this support, but then what happens is after the pandemic technically ended, or the health crisis ended, those pandemic era benefits went away, inflation increased, and inflation did hit Colorado harder than it hit many other states because we already had a high cost of living. And then we had a decrease in support, both from food donations and fund donations. So when I talk about our investments, one of the things that we are doing as an organization and that our board has been very diligent about is making sure that, okay, this year, our budget, we are looking at a deficit budget of about, when all is said and done, I want to say 300,000 to 500,000. But we will be using money from our investment to cover that deficit. So part of what we are doing as an organization right now is really doing what we call pressure testing to our finances. So if the increase in need continues to happen, what do we have an organization have to do to make sure that we have the resources needed to meet those needs? So we are doing a SWOT analysis of every single one of our programs to make sure that it's working. They are working the most efficiently and effective way that we can for our community. And then we are also doing pressure testing of our finances for the next 5 years so that we can see kind of where we are as an organization, because we are a fiscally strong organization, always have been, and we just want to make sure we are doing the best for our community. But that would be one of our concerns as we look into fiscal year 24. And that is why we do work on other things. I work with Feeding Colorado, which is a statewide association of Feeding America food banks, on advocacy at the state level, really trying to make sure that we're getting money from the states for commodity foods. So the Emergency Food Assistance Program, commodity supplemental food program. We're advocating for more money for WIC, because the more money that individuals have through WIC, the less they need food pantries and food banks, as well as looking at opportunities to say, how can we access money from the state budget to help food banks across the state.
Thanks, Kim. I know there have to be some other questions out there, so this is your opportunity.
So I'm newer to the area. So structurally, EFAA is not above, but you seek from them, and you also seek from Feeding America for helping to fund your organization. Am I understanding that?
No, so EFA is a partner of ours, so they seek us to get food for their organization. Yeah, so if I can give you I can open a I'm trying to find my snapshot of distribution. Let me see if,
So
And I-
we're a member of Feeding America. And then we're one of the 200 plus food banks across the country. And then we have our 42 partner agencies. That's kind of the org chart of the flow of that.
yeah, so just to give you an idea, EFA in the first 6 months of this year has accessed 571,589 pounds from community food share.
Okay.
So they come here, they order the food in which they need, and then they bring it into their organization for distribution. So I always say, I like to think of it as we are, if you will, the hunters and gatherers of the food throughout local, state, and federal entities. And then we work with 42 partner agencies to distribute that food out into the community.
And then the other question I had is, when you were putting the budgets up, it looked like it's $1 million that you fell short for 2023, something around there?
No, so that is, if you could.
Yeah,
put-
there,
Yep.
that,
So that is actually an inventory difference. So that difference actually comes from the non-cash items. So we actually ended, oh, I have that right here. We actually ended last fiscal year. When you did cash only, we brought in cash of 6.5 million. And our expenditures, I believe, were right around 6.4 million. So we actually, cash wise, had more cash than we did expenses. And so the difference that you see is the valuation of the donated food. And so Feeding America works with a nationwide auditing firm, which is leaving my head right about this second. KP, one of the largest accounting firms.
KPMG.
Thank you. They work with them to come to a valuation of food, and that food fluctuates from year to year based on food costs. So one year if food costs are higher, the valuation may be higher, but the next year if the valuation is lower, the food value may be lower, making it look like you are in a deficit situation when you're very much not.
Couple of questions while you've got that slide up. Your ending net assets, are those in like warehouse products or investments or
So a lot of that has to do with our investments. So we do have investments with Merrill Lynch. But let me open our financials and I can give you an exact answer. But I would say 8 million of that. Oh, so 8 million of that. You talk about cash on hand, investments, building, because we do own our building. Straight off. So the building that we have here, we own the entire facility and we do lease one portion of our building out to a for-profit company. So we also do get income based on that lease revenue.
Okay, thanks. And can I ask one more question about do you I'm just wondering how you like allocate the food that you have between partner agencies and direct donations to families or individuals that come in, and is there enough for all of the partners what they all ask for, or how do you split that up?
So that is a great question. And when we talk about what we're most concerned about in 2024 and further, and that is not just this food bank, that is food banks across the country, is the food stream into our organizations. So what we do during the pandemic, we had a lot of food support, so that was not an issue. So there was enough for everyone. Everyone can get everything they needed. And our allocations were really based on the fact that, we have 42 partner agencies. So about 70% of our food should be accessed through those individual communities. And we're really supplemental to that. If individuals can't find food in their communities, then we have programs in which they can come through. But right now we are in the first time ever conversations about internal allocations. And so we have an inventory team, an inventory individual in our warehouse that really says, okay, here's what's coming in. And so let's use a truckload of cereal has just come in. And so once it comes in, it's going to be allocated out to, we're going to save 70% of that or truckload to our partner agencies. And then those agencies may have limits on how much they can get so that it's a fair and equitable distribution. And then the remaining will be allocated between our internal programs. So a great example may be lately we've been not getting enough milk or meat to meet the demand. So we have a partner agency that may need 650 gallons of milk when they're doing their order, and we only have 450. So we make sure we let everybody know that, hey, your allocation this week's going to be 450 because of the fact that we don't, our splits of milk have not met the demand. And then we go out as an organization and talk to all our milk suppliers about, hey, is there a way we can get more milk into the system? It's something that's isn't being donated as often. So our goal is exactly, to make sure we had enough food and have enough food for everyone, but that's not the case. And so we have to make some tough choices sometimes on where those allocations look like, but making sure it's fair and equitable.
Thank you.
On your senior part, another question. You were talking about the challenge of with the senior community, giving them the food that is appropriate for them. So how do you decide that? Because
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And so we have an elder share program, and the 571 individuals I talked about, they are directly delivered food to their homes. So they're enrolled in the program. And then we have a team of 3 elder share team members who talk with the individuals. So they know what types of food they want and what kind of foods they don't want. And when we do bigger distributions to, say, senior living houses, we do surveys about the types of food that individuals need. But the great thing about delivering to community sites like that is that normally what happens is the individuals come and they trade foods based on what they can actually eat and what they desire. And so it's a balance with some of our senior population of the fact that they have some limited low sugar diets or not a lot of salt, but they also are asking for things like coffee, things in which they like to sit and have tea. So how can we make sure that these things are being added in as well? So it's all through, we have a research individual here, works with a collaborations team, and we do listening sessions with groups of neighbors who access our services to really try to hone in on what is it and which individuals need. Now, what I will tell you is on a national level, healthcare partnerships are becoming much more embedded into food banks and food systems. So really, we're exploring on a national level about how can we partner with healthcare institutes to make sure that when individuals are being discharged from the hospital, that they, in essence, have a food prescription that either food banks, food pantries, or themselves, if they are not in need of food assistance, can follow, so that the hope is to get them stronger and keep them from being readmitted into a hospital. Hi, Michael.
Okay. When I went through last time on a tour with Dina, there was a certain amount of emphasis on watching individuals come, and you saying that in some sense you did not monitor what they took from the refrigerator area. Is that something you can sustain?
No, so we do have limits in our refrigerated areas. And so we have volunteers who actually help monitor those situations of, okay, especially when it comes to meats and dairies and ready prepared meals. When they come through our doors, they sign up as either a single household, or some individuals are multiple households. And so if they're multiple households, they'll have a card on their cart that indicates that. And so we do have to limit the amount of refrigerated and meat and dairy, especially. A lot of times we don't have limits on things like produce, oranges, highly perishable items. Individuals can take as much as they want of that. We wish it wasn't the case, but we have to do that for that fair and equitable stance.
Kim, homelessness is a huge issue in our service area. How do our services align with addressing the homeless issues that we're facing, and how does that impact funding, et cetera?
Well, yeah, we partner with agencies that address homelessness. There are a lot, the in between in Longmont, you have our center, you have all the family resources, Fish and Sister Carmen. You also have Boulder Homeless Shelter, you know, any one of our partner agencies that are on our bus line traditionally see more homeless individuals for food assistance than those who are not. So we are not on a bus line, so it's very difficult to get to our facility if you're homeless. But Harvest of Hope is on a bus line, so they see a larger amount of homeless individuals come through their food pantry. And the most important thing for anything, whether it's homelessness or whether it's rental assistance or whether it's mental health, is that one of the things we're able to do is provide referrals out to organizations that are doing that work. We don't need to do every single thing because there's organizations that are doing it wonderfully. We need to make sure that we're providing them with enough food for the programs that they need when people walk through the door. But also, we have a great staff here that really works with the individuals that we access and we serve with referrals to other agencies. So, you know, homelessness, when it comes to the homelessness issue, for us, it's really about advocating for helping advocate for affordable housing, for mental health issues, and to make sure we're providing the food and the support that those agencies that are directly dealing with homeless individuals need. Because we know what we're doing here in terms of food distribution is just, food insecurity is just one of the many effects of many other things happening throughout our country and our state.
And also to tag on to that, the food that people receive through our direct service or our partner agencies, that money that would typically have been spent at a grocery store purchasing food is now financial resources that they can put towards rent. So there's a real direct correlation too between receiving food from us and being able to reallocate those funds away from food purchase for your family towards utilities and rent, etc.
I have a great story about that. I was on a call yesterday and one of my food bank peers in another state was telling this exact story. They have a food pantry on site, and he was talking about how they were feeding a couple who kept coming on a bike. And they would have bags on the side of their bike, and the couple said to him, "You just wait, in about 2 months, we're going to come through here with a vehicle." But right now they're just able to come on a bike. And so they kept coming on a bike every week for their groceries. And sure enough, 2 months later, they pulled up in a truck, and they had said, we could not afford everything at once. And you being able to help us with our food needs allowed us to save up money for a vehicle. And now I have a job that can get to and from, and I do not need the services anymore. So that is exactly, you know, when I think about who we are and what we do, we hope to open resources and availability for families to thrive by not having to worry about one expense.
Where are you? Where's the building you're talking about? Where are you located?
So we are actually located in Louisville in the Colorado Tech Center. So off of Taylor Avenue, but really off of Dillon and 96.
And you do tours? Did I understand that?
We do. Emily, do you want to jump in real quick and talk about that?
Absolutely. We love giving tours, Debbie. I would love to, I'll connect with you after and we can find a time. You know, it's so hard for me anyway to really understand the scale of what we're doing, you know, 11+ million pounds of food. But when you can come in and see the warehouse, which is basically like a giant Costco, and see the operation in person, it's really, it's just a new way to understand what we're doing, to see the gravity of it. I am happy to give custom tours. There's also a sign up for tours online if you go onto Community Food Share's website, and I will get that notification and find a time where we can tour together.
Thank you.
The tour link has been added to the chat as well. Really interesting.
Thank you, Trevor. Any other questions today? Next month, we'll have another town hall, and that is going to dovetail very nicely into what Kim was discussing today, and discussing more in depth our food procurement, how we get that food, where all it comes from, what happens when it makes it to the warehouse. I know many of our volunteers are online here, so hopefully you'll be able to join that conversation and jump in from your perspective. But I think it's a really fascinating, very involved process. So we will get information out for next month. But is there anybody else that has any other questions? We're so excited to have Kim. We still have her for 8 more minutes. No other questions? Well, we thank everybody so much for taking the time today to attend, and ultimately for being invested and working alongside us in this, in our efforts in our communities. We have volunteers and donors who are volunteers and volunteers who are donors. And we need each and every one of you, in addition to the fabulous staff that we have at Community Food Share. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out to any of us. We are all here.
Kathleen's hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I started helping with this last year out at the Louisville site and found it to be very efficiently run. We were sorting eggs the day I was there, and that can be kind of messy when the cartons have gotten mashed and whatever, but you have to be careful and pay attention, because you have to keep them with the, you know, the same expiration date together and all that kind of stuff. You can mix white and brown ones. So there's things to learn, and they teach you really well. And it went very smoothly, and we had like 600 pounds of eggs then that could be donated to the group. So I definitely recommend that everybody give it a try at least once, see what it's like to participate in that. That's it.
Thank you. That's wonderful. All right, and I just want to echo my thanks from Dina. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, feel free to reach out, and any one of us are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for everything, everyone. 2023 was a year with a lot of hard work, and we're working even harder this year. So take Kathleen's advice. If you haven't tried to volunteer, please come in and see and have a moment to see your donor dollars in action. And we have the need for all different skill sets. So if working in the warehouse doesn't sound, and doing eggs doesn't work for you, we've got Kathleen on the eggs, so we're good there. And we can assign a different volunteer experience for you, but we just genuinely appreciate all of you. So we hope 2024 is a great year for each and every one of you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.